Hi everyone, it's Denise from Dobby Books, and today I'm going to give you an update on my medieval studies. And there's been a big, huge change in that. So let's get started on that one. As you know, I've been using a curriculum by the publisher Roman Roads Press. And Roman Roads Press world history curriculum is based on Western culture. It's called Old Western culture. It's something I've been studying since ancients and then into Greeks and Romans, and now I'm into the medieval times. But just a few days ago, I learned that that publishing company, Roman Roads Press, unfortunately, is or has ties with the owner of a publishing company called Canon Press, if I'm not mistaken. This man's name is Douglas Wilson. He is a pastor of a church in Moscow, Idaho, and he is controversial um, for a few reasons. He's been accused of plagiarism in several sources, things he's written, and especially in some of the omnibus courses that he has for his Canon Press curriculum. Secondly, I know some of his teachings, his Christian teachings, are they're not kosher. It's a warped representation of the role of men and women, and uh, he and a co-author had published a pamphlet. I don't know how far back, but let's say it was I believe it's something within the last 10 years. And this pamphlet talked about how slavery was this benevolent relationship between master and slave. Absolutely ridiculous, unfounded trash. Um, they've since pulled that publication, but the damage is done. Uh, and even people within the Christian community have distanced themselves from Wilson and his organization. And there's even a Facebook page that I found that is keeping track of what is going on with Douglas Wilson and his um, organization and keeping everybody abreast of the latest on this. It's not good. So when I found out that Roman Roads Press is linked, I'm going to use that word, linked with Douglas Wilson, and he has actually some influence over with Roman Roads Press, I did not feel comfortable with that anymore. So I've decided to drop that curriculum and sort of regroup, figure out new sources. And I was looking online and I did find a few sources. There is a website called tlinwright.com. T and then Lin and then Wright, Wright. And this person has a blog, and they were studying the Western canon, and this person put together various reading lists. And one of those reading lists came from Susan Wise Bauer's publication, The Well-Educated Mind. And this book, I own this book. This one is signed by her. Dr. Susan Wise Bauer is very credible, very balanced, very she's an excellent source for this. And the list that T. Lynn Wright put together, Dr. Bauer put her list together by genres, and each genre has a reading list listed chronologically. And each genre, Dr. Bauer goes into history of that genre, how to read that genre, and then she provides you a reading list that's chronological. And what T. Lynn Wright did is she put together all those different lists that were listed by genre in Dr. Bauer's book, and she put them all together as one chronological list, which is great. That is on her website. The only thing missing from that list on the website is that this updated version of The Well-Educated Mind has added more authors to certain genres, so more recent authors. Plus, they've added a chronological list of science sources under the different disciplines: biology, physics, chemistry, etc. So what I'm doing right now is I printed out the list that was on T. Lynn Wright's website and penciled in the science sources and the other updated, more recent authors in the other genres. I'm going to type it all together as one, and I may end up, this is the plan. I'll provide a link to that in the description as soon as I'm done with it. So you may not find that link today, but if you check in a few days, you may find it then. Okay. I also found other lists. So Dr. Bauer has also purchased another book, and it's not in front of me here, but it's called The Well-Trained Mind, and that was geared more towards homeschooling parents teaching their children from kindergarten through high school. But there's a list. She goes through grammar stage, which is elementary school, logic stage, which is middle school, and then rhetoric stage, which is high school. Each has their reading list, their chronological reading list. The rhetoric stage, which is high school and up, has a more comprehensive chronological reading list. It's not listed by genre, it just goes chronologically. I have that list as well. I may be providing some links to that. So that's another one that I know I will be looking at to see which ones I want to read. That one is more comprehensive, I think, because she wanted to give options. If you don't like this particular one, try the next one. Okay. Whereas this one is geared more towards adults. Of course, they don't have to read each one. But she filtered it a little bit more. So if you end up looking over these things, maybe you'll understand a little bit better why those differences exist. Also, another good book I could go to are the Norton Anthologies. So I have the Norton Anthology of World Literature. I think mine is the shorter version, but I can go to some resources there. I also can go to, there's a website called greatbooks.org. That's another place where I can find some good sources. And another website I found is called thinkingwest.com. And they have a classic book list. They also have a YouTube channel. T. Lynn Wright has a YouTube channel. So I will provide those links in the details for you. So that means that now I'm currently still reading Bede's Ecclesiastical History. That's still a go. I still intend to read The Two Lives of Charlemagne. And my Rule of St. Benedict, which I keep by my bed, I read a little bit every night, that's still a go. These are all primary sources, so they're important to go. They're important to read, and they're on the lists that I just mentioned. My spine, my foundational text right now is going to be Dr. Susan Wise Bauer's The History of the Medieval World. She has three. One is the ancient world, this is medieval, and the other one is the Renaissance world. The good thing about this is Old Western culture covered Western culture. You don't read about Asia or Africa or anything like that, whereas Dr. Bauer's does include that. She really does cover all of history during that same time period, which is great. So this will be my spine, okay, my new spine. And because Dr. Bauer's, she owns a publishing company called Well-Trained Mind Press, which caters to homeschoolers, but also to self-educators like myself. And because this is the book used for high schoolers, they put together a study and teaching guide for that book. And I purchased the PDF a couple years ago or so and printed everything out and put it together in this binder. So although I won't be using this like I had used my other curriculum, this has good additional information, maybe some points it brings up that I didn't see. It also has maps, so it'll be a good extra source to have for my medieval studies. So that's where I am now. Still reading the same primary sources, I'd like to read this book, The Crusades, but this is like a secondary source. It's not a huge priority, but this is something that I'd like to read that's going to give me more detailed information about the Crusades, which I think is an important thing to know more about in the medieval times, because this is when they started. There's also a book I'm trying to find that's going to cover the Inquisitions, and I mean by plural, because there was the Spanish Inquisition, but prior to that, there were other Inquisitions that were going on in other parts of Europe. I don't know of a book yet that would cover those Inquisitions in one text. If any of you are aware of a title that might help me with that, just let me know in the comments and I'll look into it. And it'll be very appreciated. So there's that. That's where I am on my medieval studies. Next week, next Monday, I will give you another update and let you know how I'm doing with my new little format. So thanks everybody for hanging out with me. I will see you in a week. Bye-bye.